will lend my support here to stand before this August House to support this company's amendment bill 2020. I must be very honest, I have not had the chance or opportunity to go through the bill because we only got the bill late. But I'm here more importantly. I know the bill is a very complicated and condensed bill, exhaustive, and I'm sure the Attorney General have done a good job at protecting the interests and the Prime Minister to move of the bill. But I'm here today, Mr. Speaker, to lend my support to my government and to my Prime Minister for the fearless and the relentless position that he's taken, that he has always taken, once it is in the interests and people of this beloved country of ours. Gaston Brown, who I've known for many years before that he have even entered politics, and when he was a banker at the Swiss American Bank. I'll never forget, Mr. Speaker, and I must put it in perspective and history must record it, that when Bruce Rappaport and the owners of Swiss American, they wanted the workers at Swiss American, I do not know the details, but he can correct me, I believe it was some kind of labor relations dispute. And the Honorable Prime Minister, the member for St. John's City West at the time, was a senior member of management. And I will never forget, he took off his tie and he led all the workers down at High Street where Sir Eustace Francis building is now. And he stood in the hot sun with the workers. And he demanded that until the management, and I believe Sir Ronald Saunders, then I stand corrected again, was the chairman of the bank, until they met the demands, which were not unreasonable at the time, he did not go back to work. At the risk of him being fired, he stood up for the workers in that financial institution. That is testament to Gaston Brown's inner gut feeling growing up in abject poverty, in a ghetto, not just in Point, but in Grace Farm, eating mangoes off of a tree. And I'm not fluffing him up. I have had my differences with him up to 2 weeks ago. But I am here to support Mr. and Mistress Antigua and Barbuda. I'm here to support a position that is critical, that will go down in the history and the annals of the history of this country. I've spoken personally, because as Prime Minister Brown said, there's none in this Parliament except himself and me that are well connected. And I've gotten calls from Prime Minister Keith Mitchell, from Prime Minister Mia Mottley, I've not spoken to Ralph, and other Prime Ministers who have lambasted my Prime Minister to me and said that there's something called comity. I had to look it up in the dictionary. I guess it means oneness, some kind of club that they have, comity of Prime Ministers. But I believe that at some time I've heard Sir Lester Bird speak of that when I was a young Chief of Staff in his cabinet. But comity of Prime Ministers did not send him here to Parliament. It is the people of St. John's and his loyalty to the people of St. John's City West first that have sent him here. Secondly, it is the institution of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party who voted him as political leader. Third, his responsibility now is not just the Labour Party or UPP, but to the entire citizenry of this country. And fourth, his loyalty is to follow into the footsteps that he is following into our great leader, Sir Cornwall Bird, to be a true regional integrationist. And I'm not going to be long-winded here today, because I said that my voice is not the best. But I want to say that we must cast our minds back to 1967 down at Dickerson Bay, when Carifta was formed by the 3 Bs, by Sir Cornwall Bird Sr. of Antigua and Barbuda, the historical treaty that was signed down in Dickerson Bay by Forbes Burnham and Errol Barrow, and I don't need to read today. I know the history of this country, and I'm going to write 3 books. I may be younger than Mr. Stadroy Benjamin, younger by you, Mr. Speaker, but I know it. And Byrd, Barrow, and Burnham signed that historical treaty down at Dixon Bay. That was the precursor to CARICOM. And here we are today. We are speaking about regional integration. And I have the greatest respect for Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, his intellect, his capacity, his regional integrationist. Take it off? I didn't know you can take it off. Thank you. It stifles me. And while I'm at it, I want to pay tribute to a gentleman that's sitting here in this cabinet, in this parliamentary, Sir Robin Yearwood, the member for St. Philip's North, because I recall when Sir Lester was Prime Minister of this country, and even Deputy Prime Minister and Sir Vere Cornwall Byrd, it was Sir Robin Yearwood for many, many years. I think he was the longest serving Minister of Aviation in the Caribbean. And his relentless fight for Liat, how Sir Robin stood up. And I want to tell you, this is not the first time, history has a way, Mr. Speaker, of repeating itself. I recall when Liat was about to collapse, and Sir Lester dispatched Sir Robin Yearwood. Sir Robin, could you wake up? When Sir Lester Byrd dispatched you, Sir Robin, to Nassau, Bahamas, to save Liat. And you did an excellent job, and if it wasn't for you at the time, and I'm speaking over 20 years ago. Am I correct, sir? Sir Robin? Oh, you don't know, you don't remember, you have Alzheimer's now? Sorry, Mr. Speaker. But that is a historical fact. And the contribution of the member for St. Philip's North must also be recorded. And Mr. Prime Minister, definitely with Ken Valley, he came up to Antigua, I was there, man. I was there when Ken Valley wanted to buy out Liat with precursor of Caribbean Airlines, BWIA. We did also a joint venture proposal. And at the end of the day, although how close Sir Robin was to Ken Valley, and they were very close, he told him, no. Liat, you're not going to collapse Liat. You're not going to do it. And there was another gentleman, Sir Robin, I forget his name, not Ken Valley, that also wanted to buy majority shares of Liat. That he came up from Trinidad, a very wealthy gentleman. And they all came. Mr. Speaker, the point that I'm trying to make, Sir, the Prime Minister is standing up for what is right. And I want to just say, en passant, that if Dr. Ralph Gonzalez did not have to consider the issue of getting traffic for his new airport name, Nagal Airport, to position, his position would have been entirely different regarding Liat. But the fact of the matter is that he needs traffic into that airport. And he has abandoned his integrationist belief and philosophical belief that he has had for the last 50 years. Tim Acton, George Odlum, and all of them will be rolling their graves. And Mike Douglas and Rose Douglas. Lest they forget. And Ralph wanted to be the professor and the best about regional integration. And now he is abandoning it all of a sudden. Well, tell him this little Arab boy from Antigua, don't afraid him neither. But let me tame it down, but it's your body, but you all have common to be you calling the man a bandit. And you're calling poor Mia Motley an intellectual elite. They're offended, PM. PM, you don't have to call their names. It is the... Anyway, let me continue. But if Dr. Gonzalez, which is, what they call it, One Caribbean, St. Vincent Airline, with 19 seats, Saab Airlines, they're only going to serve the Windward Islands, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Dominica, and maybe Barbados, and maybe Dominica, I don't even know. US $99. How sustainable is that, Mr. Speaker? How sustainable is that? So what about how the people of Antigua going to go to Barbados? How the people of St. Kitts, and don't talk about St. Lucia, because I know the history. Dr. Kenny Anthony is my personal friend. Personal. He never, ever supported St. Lucia to put a single cent. It all started with Alan Chastanet, Prime Minister Brown. It go way back. That St. Lucia never, ever wanted to put a cent into Liat. They never did. Pardon me, sir? Correct. And I was also congratulate Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt. They don't have as much money as the other islands. I remember at Le Bistro, there was an OECS meeting in Antigua. And so Robin, I invited him there with Prime Minister Timothy Harris, Prime Minister Keith Mitchell, and there was one more. Chastanet was there too. This was about 2.5 years ago, Mr. Prime Minister. I was out of your government, I'm not sure. They can't fire me, you don't fire me twice. And I don't work for them. I work for the people of St. Peter and the people of Antigua. And I get out of my bed this morning and I'm sick and I have a hoarse throat, a sore throat. I'm here to speak truth to power. Mia Motley's father is my lawyer, Sir Elliot Motley. Lady Amor Motley stays at my home when they come to Antigua. You saw them at my 50th birthday, my personal friends, but I can't love them more than I love the people of Antigua. I can't love Barbados more than I love Antigua. Pardon me, sir? The oath that I took to Antigua and Barbuda is the oath that I have to the people of this country. Just like you have, Mr. Prime Minister. And that's why I was the first person to stand with you to become the political leader. The first, before many sitting in this house. I was the first to stand with him against all odds, against my surrogate father, Lester Bryan Bird, that Lester never forgive you and me, up to this day. Now, let's get to the matter, Mr. Speaker. Of course I did the right thing. He's bright, he's fearless, and I don't want to describe and you all say I'm fluffing him up, he can't do nothing to help me. I'm proud of him as the Prime Minister. And God help this country. God help this country, Baldwin Spencer was still the Prime Minister, my dear friend. I'm going to get to that. Because Antigua, Mr. Speaker, should really have majority shares in the act. But because poor Baldwin did not understand business, absolutely nothing about business, my dear friend Baldwin and the incompetent UPP, and I expected...
Do me a favor, please, Honourable Member. If you're referring to the Honourable Baldwin Spencer, who was a former Prime Minister,
What do you want me to do?
I would ask that you refer to him properly.
How do you want me to refer to him? I would like to refer to the former Honourable Winston Baldwin Spencer, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda. Doctor, my dear beloved friend, and by the way, I have a lot of great respect for him, and he was a regional integrationist. He was a true regional integrationist, and still is, and we pay tribute to him. And so is Reuben Harris. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry for referring to him like that, in my exuberance. The preference shares now, Mr. Speaker. Do you know, and we had bright people, how you want me to refer to my lawyer, Dr. Leon Errolcourt, and Harold Lovell, the honorable political leader of the UPP. They did not advise the former Prime Minister properly, because the former Prime Minister, you can't blame him. He's not, he don't have a master's degree like the honorable Prime Minister in finance. He have no background in banking. And rather than Antigua buying common shares and getting equity, he went and put, I believe, I don't know if it's $10 or $20 million into Liat. In preference shares, Howell did it as Minister of Finance. So he's not Dr. Court. It's Court I don't believe was in the cabinet, he lost his seat. Correct. He's our level. And he wants to come back and rise his head in this country. That's the Sean Bird. But the preference shares, Mr. Speaker, do you know if they bought common shares at Antigua and Barbuda rather than having 33%? We would not even be here discussing this today. Do you know that Barbados ended up with 50%, while St. Vincent always had roughly 10? Dominique had 4 after PM Brown got them to put more money, with the good relationship they built with Prime Minister Scarlett. We would have majority. And let me say this to you, Mr. Speaker, and the people of Antigua must understand that successive Labour Party and even the UPP administration, we have put over $100 million into Liat of taxpayers' monies. And what we must do today, what all you want us to do? You all want us to walk away? Walk away? There are certain institutions that you must always subsidize. Fix it, but that's what Gaston is trying to do, fix it. But we're not going to allow Prime Minister Mia Motley or anybody or Ralph Gonsalves, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, to go and appoint a receiver for $3 million US off the top without the intervention or any say of Antigua and Barbuda and Prime Minister Brown, and we could get it cheaper for maybe $500,000 US or $1 million US. It is outrageous, scandalous. Imagine, and that's the start of it, they want $2 million US deposit, the receiver. And you don't even know by the time the receiver is done and how drawn out it's going to be, what the cost is going to be to Antigua and Barbuda, to Antigua and Liat. And Prime Minister Brown, I'm sure, would have tried to write to his counterparts and ask to have some kind of say. They don't even consult him. And Antigua is the second largest shareholder, and by right should have been the majority shareholder if it was not for the UPP and incompetence that you all went and buy preference shares. And you were in the cabinet, and you say you're a bright economist. The member for Barbuda, my dear friend. So let history record what we're doing here today. And while we're here today, and that Hansard record it. So the question is, Mr. Speaker, whilst we address the subject of course and our treasured regional airline Liat, and it's unfortunate to sit and observe the regional disagreement, I said so. But Liat is not the most viable airline. The Prime Minister told us that. We know that. We know we have had, and I listened to Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves and I agree with him, insurmountable problems over the years in terms of management, in terms of overstaffing, in terms of all types of things, in terms of political intervention too, because I don't believe that a Liat board, even if the shareholders are the shareholders appoint a board of technical people. I believe that Comrade member for St. Philip's South and the member for St. Philip's North, they sit as shareholders. I don't believe you all sit as directors. But you should not be sitting as directors. I would not put a single cent if a politician is sitting as directors. And let me tell you something, Prime Minister. If you think that a new Liat and you're going to get any investor, but first of all, nobody in this country, let me correct you, sir. The Hadid company did not invest $6 million. It's $10 million they invested. And they lost it. They lost it. And the only reason Sir Aziz Hadid and the Hadid family, his ego, he wanted to become the chairman of Liat. He knew it made no economic and financial, and also, I must give him credit, a sense of civic pride and patrimony that he rose to the call of duty, and he deserves some credit. He does, because he took up $10 million of his family money to put into Liat. He did. You're not going to get no Antiguan investor to do it, but you cannot expect to form a new Liat and have Minister Weston or Minister Yearwood or Minister Benjamin or yourself being directors or Ralph Gonsalves or any of the other government, your shareholders. Pardon me? I didn't hear you. Oh, of course I agree with you. Politicians must stay away. It must be run as a business. But let me tell you something. You're preaching to the converted. The Prime Minister successfully, when I was Minister of Western Oil Company, you know what he told Gregory Georges? Don't even send me the minutes. And he was right. Let West Indies Oil Company run as a private business. No political intervention. And look at the success story of it. It's profitable. It's making millions. State insurance. You think we are intervening? You think you have ministers? You think he's the Minister of Finance calling up state insurance like you all did? It's the first time in the history, Mr. Speaker, that state insurance is making money. The first time in the history that the Antigua Port Authority is making money. Under this government. Under good governance. And not political intervention. It's a new model that Prime Minister Brown, when he bought West Indies Oil Company, he said we have to run it as a corporate entity. He put competent people on the board, private sector, people like Wayne Martin who had engineering degrees. You have business sector people. You have the Venezuelan government, of course, because they have the second charge, Mr. Zhao. He had to, in fact, be so creative, you know. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister, if I may say in Parliament, I can't say so, but the Prime Minister, take Mr. Zhao money and buy West Indies Oil Company, you know. Take Mr. Zhao money and take the man money, buy West Indies Oil Company, end up with 51% shares for the people of Antigua. The land alone is worth over the 30 million US that we paid. Forget about the operation of West Indies Oil Company. The 160 something acres, Mr. PM, I don't know exact acreage. That alone is worth, the real estate is worth. That's the creativity that he has. Using others people's money. But that's what Trump do. You think Trump became a billionaire using his money? You think all the billionaires that are here today use their money, Mr. Speaker? Other people's money. Not cooking them. It's not being a gangster. What about me? I want to use some of your gas station money. I want a loan from you. You promised me one. Anyway, Ruben left a piece of land at trial for you, you know. Yes, I have pictures of your daddy digging for gold underneath the tower. You believe it's a lie? I'm going to bring the pictures. Ruben Harris was brought to Antigua by my grandfather. And the caretaker down the drive was a Montserrat man called Gerard. And Ruben Harris was sent to school by my grandfather, and then he got a scholarship, a Leeward Island scholarship. And he used to play cricket with all my hands. He knows that. Am I right, sir? Thank you. We'll tell the Prime Minister I'm right. Pardon me? They had a dream, some two old ladies, one from Williki and one from Liberta, come and tell my grandfather to have gold underneath there from slavery days. And his father and them digging for gold underneath the sugar mill with big gut Asot overlooking them. I have the pictures. I showed them to Trevor. Aziz was chairman. Of course, I know Aziz was chairman of Liat. Aziz put $10 million into Liat. I told the PM that you outside, you're not listening. And I said he knew he would lose his money. He did it for love of country, be Robin, Sir Robin, member for St. Philip's North. He also did it for his ego. Love of country, and he wanted to be big chairman. I remember you didn't want to give him chairmanship, you know. You didn't want to give him chairmanship, Lester Bird make you give him. But no, you don't want the history, you know. Okay, but when my book talk, I'm not here to fluff up nobody. Okay, the bill, Mr. Speaker. Oh, you're the speaker now? No. So, Mr. Speaker, so what do? We do away with Liat? We are CARICOM, Collective of Nations. And within that OECS collective, literally larger than the singularity that is Caribbean Airlines out of Trinidad and Tobago. Are we unable? Are we incompetent? Are we unwilling? So the arguments from our Honorable Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda. As well, I must also congratulate the former Chief of Liat, Chief Executive of Liat. It augurs well, Mr. Speaker, with the consistent sentiments of this government's position on the viability of what is truly ours. And while Antigua is poised to continue the legend at Leeward Island Air Transport 2020, we must still accept it has served more than Leeward's, and without doubt, the longest standing Caribbean airline in the region. There are many things within the region require fighting and indifferent integration between top amongst them. Cricket is one also, just as GLIAT and regional integration. So why, Mr. Speaker, why though can't we argue as strongly about the unfortunate restrictions of travel amongst CARICOM states as we do about the actual airline that connects us all? The simple answer, in my humble view, sir, is that we're caught up with what is most important to us as individual states than what is important as collective. And that is the point that I want to get across. Am I right, sir? Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. And when we look at the United States, or even the European Union, it is obvious that we have refused as a people to follow any guidelines from those that have established similar systems before us. We are not here to reinvent the wheel, Mr. Speaker. We are here as a collective currencies only so far reaching within the Caribbean. Airlines are invested in by the selected few, and freedom of movement is demanded accordingly. You can't take my paper, Robin. You can write it in a new paper. But we, an organization of the Eastern Caribbean states, and we are Caribbean Community CARICOM. And as the Prime Minister said, no matter what he say about them, no matter what they say, they are all collective heads. They will come together. Let us not get between them. Like nobody in this parliament or country should get between me and him. They have comity among them. And just like how he says that Ralph Gonzalez speak to him, Ralph respect him. And at the end of the day, me and Mark, they're going to respect him more for the position he has taken. Okay? Trust me. That is comity. Of course. For me and you? Oh, our relationship transcends politics. Don't get me on that. We are brothers for life. And you can fire me 10 times. Our blood brother, that don't mean I won't run against you for Prime Minister one day. I challenge you in the party for the leadership. But we are brothers for life. And our relationship transcends, could we suffer together. And when the police came to my home, you were there. And when they wanted certain members, including Sir Lester and Lennox, Weston and Malvin, Joseph and Robin, to expel me out of the party, you mashed up the whole of 46 North Street. And you stood up for me. I'm not shutting up. And Max Hurst was there. And so was Bridget Harris. And they called the whole appeal and the tribunal to expel me. And when Jimmy Fuller wanted and Sir Robin to take away St. Peter's, you stood up for me. And when the police came to trial, I held my mother for 14 hours hostage. You pushed down the barricade and you were the first to reach there before the Honorable Attorney General. He reached you. And Vere Bird Sr., peace be to his soul, and Ralph Francis, and Gail Christian, you were always there for me as a brother. And I will always be there for you as a brother. But that is not about the bill today. We are here for GLIAT, because you asked me to talk about that. But Mr. Speaker, I sat and I had the honor to serve.
Honourable Member, you have about a minute left.
Well, I'll ask the House for extra time. I will ask the House for an extra 15 minutes.
Well,
no God, nothing.
You may do so, and the House can give you the time.
I want to ask now, can I have 15 more minutes? Why you want to limit me? Okay, 10. No problem. You want me to shut up? I'll shut up and sit down. You're lucky I didn't come here and tell all the cuties send the bill too late, you know.
Proceed, member, proceed.
Don't leave me alone, man. You all don't want to give me no time. Leave me. Mr. Speaker, I had the honor to sit. Listen, stop calling my phone. I'm in Parliament. It's disturbing. I need my speech. I had honoured to sit as chair of the Tourism Minister and sat in the cabinet next to the Prime Minister, and also to the Minister of National Security and Immigration, the Honourable Cutie Benjamin. And I can relate to the challenges of immigration and movement. But let's not forget the advantages we enjoy as Caribbean nationals in another state. Being able to land in London and travel to the European Union without interruption. Being able to land in Miami and move across 52 states without challenge. So traveling at a domestic level in each domain. Literally living the foundations of freedom of movement within a collective union. So it is understandable that not every Caribbean destination is financially equipped to carry an airline of its own. But it should be equally understandable that some of us could, to a large extent, handle the collective burden of such an enterprise. So what we need to do here, Mr. Speaker, is to set aside narrow political partisan politics, not the partisan type. Set it aside and allow the collective to be a collective. And there's a reason insurance and banks work in this world. They also work in Dominica, St. Vincent, Grenada, Guyana. These economies are nearly as viable as that of Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, and St. Lucia, but we are all still a collective union. For Mr. Speaker, for too long we have allowed our individual development to affect the freedom of movement of our own people, forgetting that regardless of the individual moving, the cost is the same, the tax is the same, and this is akin to some of us paying taxes to fools. And to others, it is a deterrent to even want to move. Mr. Speaker, I want to also say, in concluding, what you write here, Robin, about ACB shares now, I can't understand this. They have shares in Liat, yes, and state insurance or workers' union, I know that. Yeah, I know that, sir. That once again, I know that what Prime Minister Brown and his cabinet is doing to pass this Companies Act, to come here today, to have a sitting this afternoon at 4 o'clock of the Senate is critical, because we must, and we will survive, as the member for St. Philip South said, the Honourable Minister Lennox Weston, we will find creative ways. We will find the money. Yes, we don't want to do it alone. And we cannot do it alone. But if we are forced to do it alone, we have to do it alone. We are fighters. We fought the plantocrats. We fought the slave masters. We rescued Habib. We saved a crisis when this country we inherited a precipice of bankruptcy, when we owed, for every single debtor, we owed APC, we owed NSERV, we owed WEOC. The country was bankrupt and the IMF, we paid them off. And we turned around this economy. We created nearly full employment from 2014 to 2017 within 3 years in this country. And that is leadership. And there's no creative sending a rocket to the moon to start a new Liat. And this government, I have confidence in Prime Minister Brown, that we will do it. We don't want to do it alone, but we have the connections, he has the connections, I will assist in my little role. And we will find investors. If we have to travel the world to find them. And as he said, he don't care if Antigua have 1%. Once we have an institution called Liat where we can connect the Caribbean people. Because we can't swim. We have to fly. How are we going to get to the other islands? We have to have an airline that's sustainable. And an airline that's sustainable is going to take at least 75 to 100 million US to start and to be sustainable. Maybe you don't have to start with that, but that's what it's going to take. And we will have to do a prospectus, which I heard the PMC is doing. And I'm sure it will be done in short order. And I'm sure with his persuasive negotiating skills that you will be able to persuade Prime Minister Mia Mottley and persuade Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez and to bring other members of his colleague heads on board. Yes, I sympathize with Barbados. I know that they're going through an IMF structural adjustment program. But we inherited debt from you people with the IMF too. We didn't panic. We didn't say because we inherited debt that we had to pay off, I think, $175 million that you people left us with the IMF or more. We did it. We did it and we paid it. And we continue creating employment. We did more projects. We built schools. We expanded classrooms. We built a whole university down there. Come on. Come on, Prime Minister Motley. We didn't just sit on and say, oh, we're in a crisis, we're in an IMF program, the UP bankrupt the country, let's go home. The people sent us here, and we used our creative genes and our creative juices, and we banded together, and we ran the cabinet like a company. And we decided we were going to take on this cabinet like the executive board, not as politicians. And that's what we did. The Prime Minister utilized the best intellect and the best resources he had from each minister, from his Attorney General, from his experience from Minister Yearwood, from the Jack Green, from Minister Weston, his World Bank experience and all of that. Now you have persons like young member Darrell Matthew has so much experience in business, his own businessman, his own right. Minister Melford Nicholas, over 30 years of experience in communications and management. For God's sake, your please pass the telecommunications bill is an embarrassment. Minister Fernandez, a businessman. Come on, look at the cabinet. Look at the blend of youth and experience. Minister Malvin Joseph, been in Parliament. Come on. And Samantha, a legal lawyer trained, and a businesswoman too. And a great legal lawyer, she represented me, and represented us for 10 years and won cases against them that victimized us. Lionel Benjamin, an accountant, professional trained accountant. Pardon me? I know he works for Liat, sir. I got the text messages. He knows more about Liat than any of us, including myself, combined. He has such a wealth of experience. I mean, look at the team that we have. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but not the buffoons that we had on the other side. Anyway, sir, in closing, I spoke long enough. I just also want to join the Prime Minister and all the other members of the Parliament today in expressing my personal and my family condolences to the death and the tragic death of Mr. Nigel Christian, who was my personal friend, at Customs Officer Nigel. And I was very proud of what the Prime Minister said today, of the firm position and stance that he and his Attorney General take, of a zero tolerance for crime in this country, to take up anyone, be it a custom officer, police officer, or any other civilian out of their home in daylight, and to commit such a hideous crime, and to commit murder. It is, whilst that person is probably doing and executing their duties and their civil responsibilities and government work. I do not know the details, I don't want to get into it, but I just want to extend my sympathies to the family at this time. It must be so painful for the mother and for his sister. And I just want to say that I hope God, and I know that God will give you the strength to strengthen you at this time of your bereavement. And that I pray for his soul. And Prime Minister, I really appreciate your sentiments this morning to put out that $50,000. And how you have called upon your law enforcement, the defense force, the police, the ONDCP, to find the perpetrators of this heinous crime. And if they can't, sir, I'm humbly recommending you bring in some kind of outside assistance, whether it be Scotland Yard or whether it be the Royal Canadians or whoever, to assist them. This cannot continue, at least not under your watch, sir. Please, sir. Mr. Speaker, with those long-winded words, I thank you and I thank my colleagues, and I support this bill wholeheartedly, and my government and my party. Thank you.